Here we are back again with our next video, going a bit more into detail on how to use our show file and on how to adapt our show file to an entirely new stage layout. In the next 30 minutes, we will go through the entire process of setting up the show file for a new stage like this and get everything up and running. For this purpose, we have created a second stage layout in Capture, which you can see right here, and we will use this layout to show you all the things that are necessary to use the show file in practice. Before we move on to the practice in MA3, let's have a quick look at a stage to get you a better overview of all the fixtures that we are using here. So the stage consists of 5 different fixture groups. We have our spots in red, in total amount of 16, 8 of them in a mid truss and 8 of them in a front truss. Then we have our wash fixtures, 8 of them placed on the floor, and 6 of them placed in between our spots in our front truss. Additionally, we have then some beam moving lights on the floor, 4 on the left and 4 on the right of the stage. And we also have some pixel tubes, which we use as floodlights in our show file in the background of the stage. So there are 16 Astera tubes in the background. And last but not least, we have 8 LED strobe fixtures in our front truss and 8 conventional spots for our front lighting with dimmers. By the way, we are also providing those capture stages together with the show file for download so that you can do the same stuff like we do if you're also using Capture. So after we have a common understanding of our stage layout, let's switch back to MA3 to start with our patching process and get everything up and running. The first thing that we have to do in MA3 is to patch our fixtures accordingly to our stage layout. As we mentioned in our initial release video, there are 48 fixtures per fixture type initially patched in the show file. And it is both possible to keep them and to delete them and start from scratch. In this video, we will show you both ways, and we will keep some of the fixtures and delete some others. So before we start patching our fixtures and changing their fixture type, we will make sure that we just delete the patch that is initially there in the show file. So we select all the fixtures, move to the patch editor and say unpatch. After this, we're good to go, and we can start with our first fixture group, so the spots. So for the spots, we will delete the entire patch to show you that our show file is also working if you start from scratch here. So we will simply select all our spots and hit delete. After this, we can directly insert our new fixtures. So we will just search for the right ones. In our case, we are using JBP7 in mode 1 in a 16-bit resolution. We select them. The quantity is 16, like you know from our stage layout. Let's use this fixture ID for the moment, and the patch is also fine for the stage in Capture. So there we are. We have back our spots, and we will now just label them to get a better overview in our show file. So let's name them spot front, and those 8-1 will be our spot back. Oh, sorry, no, spot mid. We have no spots in the back truss. And we will also adapt the fixture ID to get a better access to those fixtures. So this will be according to our pattern 1101, and the ones in the mid truss will be 1201. So there we have it. We have recreated our spots from scratch, and we will later on see how this works in practice with all our presets and so on. The next fixture group we have to take care of is our wash fixture group. For the wash, we will try a different approach and simply replace the corresponding fixture types. To do so, let's bring back in Capture to get a better overview on the stage and to see which fixtures we will replace. So if we stick to the patch that is initially there, it makes sense to always work from the center of the patched fixtures and try to keep up the symmetry that is already there in the show file and in all the presets. This means that if you now try to patch the fixtures from our front truss, you try to place those 6 in the center of the old 12 ones. So we will not start from 2101, but we will start instead from 2104. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's select their fixture types and just change them to the right ones. So in our case, we are using Sparks 10 in mode 1 16-bit. And we have set up our wash fixtures for the front. After this, we can delete the rest of them. Simply select and delete them. And to keep the accessibility good, we will also change the fixture IDs to 2101 again. So let us move on to the next ones, the mids and the backs. So we don't have them in our show file, and that is why we will simply select and delete them. So after this, we will finish the job for our wash fixture group by changing the correct types of our floor set. So we have 8 of them. This means we will now start from 2403. Select them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Change the type. This time it's already in the show, so we can simply select them here. Mode 1 16-bit. And we are good to go. We proceed the same way, so we delete the rest of them. And we will also fix the fixture IDs. So there we have it. To 2401. Now we have our 6 wash fixtures in our front truss, and we have our 8 wash fixtures in our back truss. No, sorry, in our floor set. Please keep in mind, if you're starting from scratch, it makes absolutely sense that you invert the panning of the fixtures for those ones standing on the floor, because then you will get a nice behavior together with the fixtures placed in your trussing. So after we've finished with the washes, we will move on to our beams. For our beam fixtures, we will stick to the same pattern and simply replace the fixture types. And as we can see in capture, we have just 4 of them on the floor on the left and 4 of them on the floor on the right. And that is why we can simply delete all of the other ones. So we will only use the floor set. Just delete them. We will work from the center here with our beam set. So we have 8 of them, like with our wash fixtures on the floor. So we start from 3403. Select 8 of them. Change the corresponding fixture type. We're using those ones in mode 1. Select them. Delete the rest of them, which we are not using anymore. And give them a correct patch. So like 3.1 in our case with the capture stage. And by the way, as I just see this, we have not patched our wash fixtures. So we will fix this real quick. Select them. And we will use Universe 2 with break 1 for them. So we have now fixed the patch of our washes and also set up our beam fixtures. To get a nice accessibility, also with the fixture IDs here, we do the same thing like with the spots and just fix the fixture ID to 3401. So the 4 in our pattern always indicates that this is a fixture which is placed on the floor. Now that we have finished all of our moving light fixtures, we can move on and have a look at our pixel tubes that are placed in the back of the stage, like you can see here. Those one, we will simply use our flood groups or flood types, which are initially there in the show file. And you will also see that this is no big issue, and you can simply use them as you want. So as we have 16 fixtures here that are placed differently to the rest of the lights in our show file, we won't stick to our approach with the 12 fixtures per truss, and we will therefore simply select 16 of them. So we start with the 1, select 12, and then another 4. This will give us 16 of them. And after this, we simply select the fixture type and change it to the right one. The fixture type we are looking for is an 8-pixel version of the Astera Titan tube. So let's search for them. And we use the 8-pixel mode in RGB with a single strobe control for every pixel. So that means multi-strobe is the correct name here. So RGBS, this looks great. We select it and simply select it. After this, we can directly edit the patch and use Universe 4 for them. The rest of them can be simply deleted, so we delete all of our old flood fixtures. So last but not least, we can now move on with our strobe groups. So for our strobes, the job is really simple as we're using just 8 of them in the front truss. So let's simply select 8 of them, change them to the correct fixture type. So in our case, we're using SGM Q10 in a 6-channel raw mode. We will delete the rest of them. Hit delete after you have selected them, and we will quickly fix the fixture ID. And then we will also directly patch them to Universe 5 starting with 1. So after this, we are good to go, and we have patched all our intelligent lighting, so the moving lights and the LED stuff. And last but not least, we can now have a look at this stages selection right there, because we have also created a second stage where we have some dimmers initially patched that you can use right away if you want. In here, you will find 4 different dimmer groups called A, B, C, and D, which are already working together with some hardware faders in our layout. So you can simply use them if you want to. So in our case, for the staging capture with our 8 front lights up in the front truss, we will now simply patch 4 of them, the left ones to group A and the other ones on the right to group B. So we will simply select 4 of them and patch them. And then we will move on to group B and patch the rest of them. So starting with 6.5 now. And that's it. We have finished our patching process and can now focus on the presets and the other stuff in our show file. So close the patch and make sure that you hit save and exit. The first thing we want to focus on after our patch is completed is the setup of our groups. In the show file, you will find 5 main groups, which are always called symmetric. Those groups include all the fixtures of one fixture category, and they also represent those fixtures correctly in the selection grid. This is really important that the show file is working perfectly and you get those nice symmetrical looking effects. When it comes to the functionality of the show file, those groups in this middle area can be ignored. Their purpose is just to give you a better access to some fixtures of a fixture category, for example, to all your wash fixtures on the floor. The groups right to them, called Pixel Master, have some functionality, and they are important if you're using fixtures which have subfixtures, but we will focus on this later on with our pixel tubes. So let us start with our spot fixtures. As you can notice, all the initial groups of our spot fixtures are grayed out. This is due to the fact that we have deleted the entire patch for the spots. The other ones show different behavior. To set up our initial spot symmetric group again, let's have a quick look at capture to get the right understanding of our stage layout. As we remember, we have 8 fixtures in the front and 8 spot fixtures in our mid truss. So let's first select our first 8 spots in our front truss. To do so, we simply enter our fixture ID, which is 1101 for the first, and we want them to select through 1108. So we get the first 8 of them. And after this is done, we then select the next position in the selection grid. So just hit this and enter the next corresponding numbers. So the next fixtures from our spots will be 1201 through 1208. After this, we have created a symmetrical selection, which we can now store in our group for our spot fixtures that matches the stage layout. Should just enter store and you can override this first group. After this is done, make sure to clear your programmer, and we can then move on to our wash fixtures. For the wash fixtures, we already have an existing working group because we have not deleted the entire patch. So just select it and we check what we've got here. So as you can see, this seems also to be not that bad because we have 6 fixtures in the front and another 8 fixtures somewhere at the floor set. We can see here that there is also some leftover from our initial patch because we have gaps in between those fixtures. These result from the old trusses that were placed in between our front truss and the floor set. So our mid truss right there and our back truss right there. It would be also fine to keep those gaps, but the effects might look a bit different, and that is why we will use this function here to remove all the gaps. So just hit it. The gaps will then be removed, and we can after this simply store the group. And that's it. We're good to go with our wash group. We continue in this pattern for our beam group. Just select it, give it a try. Seems not to be bad, but we are at position 3 in our y-axis, and this is why we will also remove the gaps to bring it up again to 0. So after this, it's also good to go. There might be the possibility to create some gap in here because there's a huge gap in our stage layout. But for the moment, we just keep it. That's a point of creativity. You can play a little bit around with this. But for this video, we will stick to that and also simply store this group and clear our programmer afterwards. So let us move on to our flood group. As you know from the patch, we are here including our nicely placed pixel tubes in the background of the stage. And to get everything up and running here, it is important that you store only the masters of those fixtures in this group called Flood Pixel Master, and only the subfixtures, so the single pixels in this group called Simric. So let's just do this. We will first start with our master group, and to get a better overview of what we are doing, we just bring out capture so that we can see our fixture sheet. To select the master fixtures of those tubes, simply enter the fixture IDs, which will be 4101 through 4116 in our case. And there you go. You've just selected the masters of those fixtures. So simply hit store and overwrite this group. To continue with our pixels for our Simric group, let's have a quick look at capture again. As we know from our patch, one tube is equipped with 8 pixels in the mode we are using it. And this means that we will have 16 pixels in one line, and we have 8 of them from our left side to the right side. So in total, we are spanning a grid by 16 of 8 pixels, and we will now place this nicely in our selection grid. To do so, we will use our grid command in MA3, which helps us to select a grid area where we can then place directly all the fixtures in. For this, type grid and 0/0 to set the starting point. So this blue mark, this is already correct. And after this, through the area which we want to select. And this is now 16 by 8. As MA3 is starting the counting from 0, we have to subtract 1. This means we start like this, so with 15/7. And this will give us a nice selection in the grid, or a nice area in the grid, where we can now simply select all our fixtures or the subfixtures of our tubes in. To bring all our subfixtures in here, we will now simply enter the fixture ID. So for 101 through 4116, so 16 of them, and add dot through. And this will give us the selection of only the subfixtures. And as you can see, the grid is correctly filled with all of those subfixture pixels. As the through command of MA3 will always give us a selection from the left to the right in the grid, we work in this way, and this is not matching our stage layout yet, because we will have 16 pixels in a line from the top to the bottom and not from the left to the right. So to fix this, simply hit this icon, which will transform this selection grid to a 90-degree version of it, and also keep everything in the correct order. After this is done, we're good to go, and we can store this group selection with the selection grid to our group called Simbrick for the Floods. So to finish our job with the groups, simply clear your programmer and select the last group, which is also already there, like with our beams and washes. And as you can see, we do the same thing. We just remove the gaps and afterwards store the group again with the override command. And that's basically it. We're good to go. We have set up all our groups, and we can then move on to our presets, which is the last of the 3 steps we have to do to adapt our show file to an entirely new stage setup. The presets that you have to focus on to get everything set up and running for the basic functionality of the show file are the presets down below. So all the presets that are placed in these pools, which have the same color like your fixture category. The only exceptions are those presets right there, which are called spot dem on, spot IFX off, and spot PFX off. So let's focus on those ones. We will start with the positions for our spots. For this process, we will check first if our corresponding group master of the fixture category is at 100%, because otherwise we won't see anything. And after this is good, we will bring back in capture to get an overview on our stage. Now we will simply select our group, which is down there for good accessibility. And we will type in at 100 to set up our spots, or the dim of our spots. And then we will simply, store the positions as we're used to it. So this will be our first one, and we will simply use the override command for this. We will bring out the lights a bit more towards the audience, store the next position, and as you can see, this is a really fast process. We will use some fanning for our next position, and we will now simply continue in this pattern until we have set up all our positions in a nice way that works for our stage. The last group we have to store is the group at the pool item 1011. And this is a special one because there is a special functionality related to this position in the show file, because we have some hardware keys which are using this position to give you a quick access to this blind position. So this is meant for blinding your audience, and we will simply use a position where we put the lights directly towards the audience. After this is done, we can move on to the Gobo presets. For the Gobo presets, we have set up a filter in the pool, which is indicated by this little icon up there. And this means that not only the Gobo value, but also the focus value is stored into those presets. In our opinion, this makes absolutely sense because you always want a sharp gobo, and this means that it also requires a corresponding focus value. So to store our first gobo preset, which is the gobo open one, we will simply set both gobo wheels to open, and we will adjust the focus to the focus value that we want to use if there is no gobo selected. So in our case, we just take the 100. It doesn't matter for the video. So just hit store and store this first preset. For the next gobo preset, we will then simply set up one gobo wheel with a gobo. So this looks nice. And we will ensure that gobo wheel 2 is then open, and we will also adjust our focus accordingly. So store the next one and continue in this pattern. So we select the next gobo. This looks cool. Ensure gobo wheel 2 is open. We set the focus again and store this. Gobo 3, we will use now gobo wheel 2. So let's try this one out. And we will also set the focus here. Store the third one. And last but not least, for our gobo 4, we will use this one. Ensure gobo wheel 1 is open again. Set the focus and store it. So after this, we can focus on those 3 presets which are relevant for the rotation of your gobos. So the first one is there to deactivate the rotation. So we will move to the gobo area and select the index, so the first one, and set this simply to 0. This will give us no rotation at all. We will simply store this. The next one is meant for a slow rotation. So let's give it a try like this. We'll store this. And the second rotation preset is meant in our show file to give you a faster rotation, for example, like this. But you can for sure use also a different direction here if you want. So after this, we are finished with our gobo section and we can move on to our beam section. For this, let us quickly open the gobo wheel again and then search for the prism open. So we will move on to the beam section where our prism is located, and we will then simply select the prism to be open, which is our first preset. So we will store this again with the override command. The next preset is just for one prism variant. So in this case, we use this 3 facet prism. We store it and we can continue with the second one. Let's have a look if this fixture has another one. No, so we simply store the same prism for the second preset slot. After we have done this, we will focus on the beam presets for the strobes. And we have 2 of them, one for our normal strobe and one for our random strobe. So we will have a look for our shutter, selecting the strobe and just adjust it until we get a nice strobe effect and store this. Then we'll move on to the random selection. We skipped it. So until there, and we will select a cool looking random strobe effect like this. And we will store it into this second preset. Last but not least, we have those focus presets, which are there to set our zoom values for the fixtures. So let us quickly set the shutter to open again, just to see what's happening, and also let us set the prism to open. And after this, we will simply adjust the zoom. So this is our wide position, obviously, even if it's named narrow in here. So we store this in the white preset. Then we will create some in-between variant like this and store this in the zoom mid preset. And last but not least, we will then store our zoom value for a narrow beam in the last preset. Like this. And after we have finished our job here, we can continue with the presets for our wash fixtures. So let us use this macro to move on to our next preset pool. This will also change the corresponding view pool item on this right selection here, which is really handy to do some quick change between different views and get back where you left off. So after this, we will ensure that our group master for our spots is at 0. We will bring up our group master for the wash fixtures and clear our programmer. As you can see, the wash fixtures are already up and running without using the add or add 100 command, because we have used the fixtures that were initially there in the show file. Along with this, we also see that the position presets are set up and they seem to work because they're not grayed out. And let us just try them, because we have tried to keep the symmetry by patching them correctly in the old 12 fixtures per truss, and this will probably give us already a good behavior for our positions. Okay, as we can see, the positions seem to be good in some way, but they are at the wrong side and look inverted. And we can probably easily fix this by just inverting the panning and tilting of them in the patch. So let's do this real quick. We move on to the patch menu. We simply search for our wash fixtures, which are located here. And we will then simply invert every of the invert attributes. So let's put an inverted in here and also there and also there. And we will delete the invertation for our floor fixtures there. So now we've created quite the opposite, and this should work fine. We hit save and exit, bring back in capture, and now let's try all those positions again. Yes, so as you can see, now the positions are basically correct and working, and yeah, they look really good. I would just keep them as they are now. For sure, if you're not happy with those positions, simply adjust them as you want and then move on to the next presets. So the gobos are quite simple for our wash fixtures because there are no gobos, and also the first 3 of our beam presets because we also have no prism, but we can check the other 5 ones. So let's just have a look what's inside our wash strobe normal. And as we can see, nothing is happening. So let us fix this. We move on to beam and simply select the strobe and adjust the wheel until we get a nice strobe effect like this. And then we hit store and overwrite this first preset. For our random strobe, we continue in the same pattern. So let's just select the random and adjust this. Okay, so it seems not to work in the visualization here. I think it's only due to this. That's not a big deal for the moment. So we will simply keep it as it is because I think you understand the way of storing the presets in this show file. So let's hit store and simply overwrite this one. Okay, so then we can move on to the focus presets. Let's just stop the strobe for a second, bring them to a full on back again, and select the focus tab and just use the wheel to bring the zoom to a narrow spot. Yeah, like this. That's the most narrow beam we can get out of those lamps. And after this, we hit store the narrow preset, adjust it to somewhere in the middle, store the mid preset, and go for a full wash and store this in our white preset. And after this, we have successfully set up all the presets for our wash fixtures. So let us finish the last preset group for our moving lights, the beams. Here we will simply stick to the same pattern. So first ensure that our master for our beam fixture is up and running at 100%. And then we will clear our programmer and select the beam group. Then we can try out those positions which are initially there. And as you can see, they are basically working. They do not look perfect, but I think it's enough to show you that it's basically working if you replace the fixtures in the patch. So feel free to just adjust those position presets. For the gobos, let us also have a quick look. Okay, so they already seem to work. We just keep them. They are. We can also try the rotation. Okay, there might be some fix needed, so you should restore them, or as we did it for the spots. But I think it's fine for the moment. Let's have a look at the prism. Yeah, prism is also working, and the strobe is also fine. So as you can see, there are already things up and running if you just change the fixture types as expected. So let us open the shutter again, check the zoom behavior. This is white, this is mid, this is narrow. This seems also to be fine. Mid, white, okay, not that perfect. So let us fix this real quick because zooms are important. So we will just do this as an example for the zoom again. We've selected the preset, the group, and I've ensured by hitting the clear key twice that nothing will be stored. And then I will simply adjust the zoom to narrow, store this, bring it somewhere in the middle, store this, and bring it to full and store the white preset. And so now we're finished here, and also our beam presets are all set and good, and we can move on to the floods. Same procedure here. So we will bring down the master, bring up the flood master. They are already up and running. And for those last two groups or fixture categories, we won't have positions. So we have only a reduced amount of presets because we normally use those two last fixture categories only for LED lighting and no moving lights. So let's give it a try for our beam presets. So strobe normal looks good. Strobe random doesn't look that good. Oh no, there it is. There was just some time delay, probably due to capture. So we keep it as it is, and we have no zoom, so we are also fine here, and we can directly move on to the strobe presets. So same again, bring down our floods, bring up our strobes, and clear the programmer. Check the presets. Yeah, it's a bit slow. Let's adjust this. This looks way better. We store this and we go for the last one, the random strobe. There it is. Yeah, like this. This looks cool. And we also store this preset. So now we have finished all our preset work, and we can simply clear the programmer and move on to the last step after we have completed step 1 to 3. And that is simply move over to the macro section and hit our master macro. After the main part of this macro is finished, the plugin for our color picker generator will appear with a pop-up, and just hit reinstall and click generate. You can try to adjust the place where the appearances are stored and where your color presets and the groups are located. But in our master template show file, this is already set with the correct initial values, so just hit generate. And after this, confirm the changes that will be made by the plugin. After this, we have now reached the fun part of this video, and we can check out our new layout views. So move over to the first show layout, which is show A, and as you can see, we are using the version for command wing setup with one screen. Let's bring back in capture and have a look what's happening here. So first, make sure that we see all our fixture groups, and as you can see, the masters are now working also for our spot fixtures, for our wash fixtures, for our beam fixtures, for our flood fixtures, and for our strobe fixtures. Beside our group masters, also the flash keys will now work, and we can check them out. So you get those nice flash keys for all the stuff like the strobes, the random strobes, so on, and they will work for sure for all of your fixture groups right away. So let us just keep up the flood and the spot master and play a little bit with the layout views. So now you are able to use the different positions that you have stored in the presets right away from this layout view. And for sure, you can also use the second view, so the show B command area, where you can, for example, set up the zoom values for your spots. And you can also try this area where you can adjust the different nice looking intensity effects. First 2-1 will give you a 2-step chaser. The next 3-1 will give you a 4-step chaser now, meaning the cloud and the following 4 ones will give you soft waveforms, so based on a sine wave. We can also simply bring down the speed a little bit, and you can see everything is working nicely along this. And very interesting is also that for our flood groups, also the pixels will now work perfectly, as you can see. So we have those nice looking pixel FX in different styles, and they will just directly work from scratch after running our master macro. So you see there are many cool FX working directly without any effort for you. By clicking this X on the right side, you can stop the corresponding FX. And let's try some movements. And as you can see, they will also work just fine. If you don't like the size of them, simply move over to the faders and use those temp faders for the size of those FX. As you can see, now the size is decreasing perfectly. Okay, let's get back to this layout, and we will just bring in the rest of the fixtures by raising up the corresponding group masters, like this and like this. And we will try our color picker and select them all to blue. And now we see a behavior that's maybe not the one we wanted to achieve, but it's easy to explain. As you can see, the spots are not working with the blue color. The rest of the fixtures are working with the blue color. This is due to the fact that we simply deleted all our spot fixtures, and that is why MA3 is not able to use our global presets for the colors. In order to fix this, simply move over to the preset area, select the preset area for the spots, select the group, and afterwards you can simply adjust the color and merge them into these color presets. You can also do this in this color view. There you have also set up the color picker, which gives you the opportunity to easily set this right away. So let us just do this for 2 to 3 colors to give you an overview on how this works. So let's say we like this blue, and we will simply hit store and store this into our blue preset by using the merge command, like this. We will also do it for more magenta part, like this. Store it and bring it in there with our merge command. Then we will also store some red color. Store it there. We also want a green. Store it here. Merge it in there. So just as this, you can simply adjust all the color presets for your fixtures to get a nice matched color theme for your entire stage. And after you have finished this, simply use our color picker plugin again. Just hit it, say reinstall, say generate, and confirm again. After this, you can switch back, try out the different colors, and as we try to set, now blue is working, red is working, and so on. So that's very easy, and you should always do this if you're live at a stage and if you do not know your fixture types, because that's the only way you will get nice looking colors that match also between different fixture types. Last but not least, we can then again move over to layout B, where you will find also those 2 layout views, which we will explain in a future video more in detail. The first one is for our tap chasers, so some chasers which will be tapped manually to the beat, and those override sequences which can be used to highlight, for example, some solo musicians. On the left side, you will find this layout view at the bottom, and this is called RigFX, and we use it to build up FX that are incorporating your entire rig all at once. For example, like this. So they're basically intensity FX. You can try them, and if you're wondering why they maybe look a bit strange, you have to have a closer look at this group here. This group is called All Sim Rig, and if you want all the RigFX to work perfectly, you have to ensure that this group has a perfect selection grid for all your fixtures. So if you have spot fixtures with some wash fixtures in between, you have to also recreate this correct pattern in the selection grid. By default, we create this group automatically by adding those groups all together. But this might not be a perfect projection for your real stage layout. So you can set up this group also manually and afterwards run the corresponding macro for the setup of the RigFX again. You can find this macro in the macro section. Another possibility would be to already consider the gaps and the distances for all the fixtures and the entire stage layout in the individual sim-rig groups. However, in doing so, the individual effects can then look slightly different. We are also working on setting up MA3D together with some MBR exports from our capture file to give you the best experience here and to provide a show file which is perfectly arranged with this sim-rig group up there. So let's switch back. In this layout view, you will find, as already explained in our release video, some stuff like fly-ins, as you can see right now, or fly-outs, and some other stuff, which is, for example, using zoom values or iris values of the fixtures. Finally, we can then also simply check our gobos. Let us do this real quick. So you can find the gobo selection up there and simply select the desired gobo. And also try to use the rotation feature. This is located there. As you can see, this is also working very nice. This looks crazy, so just stop it. And we will also check the prism. Yep, that's also working. So as you can see, all our layout views are up and running. So for the end of this video, let us have a quick look at our front lighting of the stage, because we also have some front lighting set as normal dimmer channels. For this, we can simply move over to our faders, and the front lighting is normally set to page B. So there's also a hardware layout B. Simply move over, and here you will now find all the groups that we have mentioned in the patch. So there is this group A and the group B, and they will work directly with your front lighting, and you can adjust them right away. The front master on the left section will include all of them. So if you bring this one up, all of your front lighting will be set accordingly together. You can find the corresponding front lighting groups also in the group section. They are placed here. And as you can see, indicated by this little dot, they are using an additive group master, which means that this master is giving you intensity also if you're not using any dimmer sequence in the background. So we've just added the corresponding dimmer channels to these groups, and that's all we've done. And by raising up those additive masters, this will give you already some intensity output. If you are using not only dimmers, but more complex fixtures like moving lights or LED lighting for your front, then we would recommend to use those group, which are placed above the group masters and which are named accordingly, to simply store all the stuff that is needed. So the intensity values, for example, the color values, zoom values, position values, and so on, directly in some corresponding sequences, which are also set up initially with some higher priority. You can find them right here, or also in the sequence selection for every fixture directly above, or also for sure in this global area for our sequences. So that's basically it. We have completed all the steps that are necessary to set up a new stage layout like this in our show file and to get all the fixtures up and running. We hope that you've enjoyed our video and that you're looking forward to our next videos, in which we will also explain some features even more in detail. If you have any questions regarding our template show file, feel free to ask at any time and stay tuned.